Okay, welcome everybody. I think we can get started. Lots of things happening, of course, always in Tesla land. So let's get started with FSD because I'm curious to understand what you guys interpret it's actually happening. There's some movement with full self-driving in China and actually also in Netherlands. So in China, some people are saying that actually, FSD was officially approved in China and Tesla announced the complete regulatory approval. But that's not what I was reading. I think what happened was the Tesla's official account. They had a statement that they shared, and they're saying that that in fact that they're waiting for additional this new regulation that came out to be able to restart the free trial. But in that statement, they said that um, our team is currently completing the approval process for both 3.0 and 4.0 hardware. And once everything's ready, we'll push the updates to you as soon as possible. I think people interpreted that to mean that, it does sound very good news, but I wanted to see where we're at. Jeff, did you see that news? What did you think about it?
Yeah, I just think they're going through, typical, growing, I don't know, pains or just this is the rollout. And you're going to have, when you have all these different geographies, you have all these different regulatory bodies and regulations, you're going to, you're going to run into issues. But to me, the higher order bit is the adaptation time seems very small from when a car is literally dropped, literally out of the sky into a new country, and the time it's able to drive and drive on FSD and do it competently and do it safely. It seems that adaptation time is very small, and it seems like that's a function of something right now only Tesla can do, with the strength of their foundation model and the billions of miles they've driven and just the architecture of their system. So that's what I'm most excited about. I fully expect that we're going to have starts and stops. We're going to have issues, especially with something of this complexity. Can you hear?
You cut out, yeah, you cut out for a bit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you put this into perspective, and you think about just innovation over the last 10 years, so go back to 2014, 2015, I can't think of anything that's more innovative than end-to-end neural nets driving, a 2.5 ton vehicle through the world in any country. I can't think of anything that's actually more innovative, and it looks like it's very close to production, and it's already being monetized in its current format in FSD, and it looks like it's closer to more global production over the next several months. And to me, that the adaptation time being so short, those are the highest order bits, and I fully expect speed bumps on the way.
Yeah, Yahoo Finance actually did say in their title that Tesla resumes push in China with approved full self-driving software. And they said that following the receipt of official regulatory approval, that's what they shared that comment. So I don't know if that's what the big news is, but the stock seemed to have reacted to that. Omar, how did you interpret that news?
Well, I interpreted it as that they were getting a little bit of pushback in terms of how they were rolling it out, maybe complying with some of the regulation. But it is clear that the rollout is underway now, both for AI4 and AI3. And as we see more and more videos from the Chinese market, there seems to be a consensus building that it is actually the best system on the market. You're seeing comparisons to other systems that are available on locally made cars, and FSD can often do things that the other systems just can't, even without a lot of the sensors you find on the other cars and a lot of the mapping you see on the other cars. So I think it's extremely positive. I think they had a 30-day free trial that they had started issuing, but then had to pause that due to some regulatory steps that needed to be taken before that type of trial could be approved or something like that. So it's kind of interesting. But I do think that they'll be able to do everything they need to do to comply with the regulation and roll out the free trial, roll out FSC subscription, probably, I think, in Q2 at this point. And those will be really huge moments. We're in the process of rolling this out to China. So not everybody has it. The subscription offering isn't available. For some of the lower income people in China, 64,000 yuan is like a year's salary. So it is quite a lot of money. I think the subscription offering, making the free trial available, these are things that are going to be really material to the company. And there is a little bit, I think, of a learning curve working with the new regulators, making sure they're doing everything the right way, that they're meeting the rules of the local market. But they're swimming those waters now, and it seems like a big success in China. People are really excited.
Yeah. The other potentially news that no one's really seemed to be talking about. Did you guys see this? That in the Netherlands website, if you try to order a car, which I am right now on the website here, Hans was on it earlier today. We did a show on this. If you try to order a Tesla in the Netherlands website, first of all, it actually says full self-driving supervised now is one of the features. And then when you read closer, it says full self-driving capability, €7,500. This includes enhanced autopilot plus traffic light and stop sign recognition. Future updates will also enable your car to drive itself almost anywhere with minimal driver intervention. This is above enhanced autopilot. This is above standard autopilot, and they even come with this, beautiful video showcasing what this full self-driving could do. So it's kind of like in between these autopilots with this actual full self-driving. So it seems like, why would they do this? Why would they start selling this if they didn't feel confident that in the Netherlands, at least, this will be approved soon? Did you guys see this?
Well, they've been selling FSD on their website for years, even in countries that can't run FSD. So I wouldn't draw anything from that by itself. If anything, the fact that they're writing FSD supervised instead of FSD for the name of the package is a little bit of a walk back in terms of what they're promising. But it does sound like they're working with not only the UNECE to get those regulations changed, but also with the Netherlands to get an exemption for those regulations. So we could see FSD come to the Netherlands as soon as April, I think I saw someone say. And I think before the end of the year, we could see at least highway FSD, if not city and highway, without any nag in other European countries and Australia and New Zealand and other UNEC countries. So this is really the most significant thing that happened with FSD in the quarter, is that they expanded to China and that they're getting ready to expand to Europe as well, pending regulatory approval.
Okay, well, I did not know that. That's great information, Omar. I thought that that was new. Sounds like it's just something that they've been doing. But what do you guys think is the next steps here, right? So they obviously FSD has been released in China. A lot of people are testing it. It's looking good. The videos. They are doing this free trial that was pulled back a little bit until this additional new paperwork needs to be done. But then they'll be able to do that, and then they'll offer probably a subscription. How long do you guys think before they actually do some sort of robotaxi pilot or not this year, not next year, because Tesla's basically just announced that they'll do it in the US for sure. That's what they've talked about. That's what we're expecting. Are you guys thinking that there might be a robotaxi pilot somewhere in the future? Like when? Next year, maybe?
Yeah, if the US service goes well, then they are also going to launch services in China and Europe, regulation permitting. I think China's a little more forward on this than Europe is. So, yeah, absolutely. If they're able to launch in the US and it goes well, they're going to launch in Chinese cities as well.
Yeah, I'm just hoping it's going to be sooner than later. But yeah, I wouldn't expect it until next year. I'd be shocked if they announced something like that earlier.
The economics in China are different, but different here in terms of the gap between human driven ride hail at full scale and then not human driven. So they've got to come down the cost curve more fully. So they really got to get Cybercab and all their services ramped up. I would think that you would go into the lower call it margin markets when you're more closer to your peak in terms of cost or getting to your cost target. So anyway, I would say a little bit more. time would be needed. But yeah, I think the U.S. is the focus right now.
Yeah, it's still too early. I mean, we had rumors, right, from the German media. I guess that's not rumors. The German media really did start writing saying that they expect the Cybercab to be built in Giga Berlin. We've not heard anything like that in China yet.
Oh, they'll build it
Meaning,
everywhere.
yeah.
It's a magnet. The cost structure is the magnet. If they figure out how to build a car for somewhere between $17,000 and $20,000, that's a really cool, compelling looking vehicle. They're going to build it everywhere. That that is the cost structure is what's going to enable that, and then the customers they'll be there for that because it's going to be a great product at a low price point. So I fully anticipate the plan is to build it everywhere.
Right, but the
Yeah,
question
if
is
you
like,
think they're
would you?
not going to put the new revolutionary unbox process into production in Shanghai, I think you're going to be a little bit surprised. And yeah, China's a very different market, but their plan is the same globally. And there actually are driverless rideshare services operating in China. There's a regulatory framework in which they operate in. Tesla can operate in that same regulatory framework once the software is ready and offer rides if they're able to do so in the US. It's probably going to be 2 to 4 quarters after the US launch, but their plan is to scale this globally, regulation and software performance permitting.
When do you think we might actually start hearing of Cybercab being built in these other factories?
I have no idea.
What's your guess, Jeff? Like, would we not hear until next year, or would we start hearing about it sooner than later?
Well, it's all being managed in phases. So they're going to complete development work, and this year that's production development, that's engineering development on the vehicle itself, and get the start of production in low volumes, either super late this year or first quarter of next year. So typically there's a lead factory, and then there's fast following right behind it. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I don't think it's gonna naturally happen just due to the cost structure. There's no question about it. You can question things like Cybertruck and Roadster and Model S and X because those things are typically typically lower volume, and they tend to be done in a single factory. It's more of a question if those are going to go more wide, but they're what's going to be a bulk of their volume, they'll do it regionally because that's the way you get the total lowest landed unit economics. Is
You cut out again, Jeff.
What we saw with the Model Y and the Model 3 was often that as they moved to a new factory or a new line, they really iterated on the production process as well. So for the Model Y, for example, you saw them with some of the newer production lines move to large structural castings, which they later did across the board. Sometimes they like to kind of phase it out in that way. Like if they're starting with the unbox process in Austin, they probably want to start production a little bit, learn a little bit about what's working and what isn't working, and then incorporate some of that when they design some of the lines in Berlin or Fremont or Shanghai.
Yeah, that makes sense. Jeff, are you back?
yeah, Android sucks on Spaces, so I'm on. Never mind. I'm on Bluetooth. As soon as the screen goes black, my audio goes. So anyway, I'm back. Yeah.
Just leave. Okay, because I want to ask you a question, Jeff. This week we heard that Tesla China reported 17,400 Tesla cars are registered last week, and that is a nice jump. That's what we were hoping for. The first week of this month, March, we had 13,800. Then the second week, 15,300, and now 17,400. That brings us for this quarter, year to date, compared to last quarter, first quarter last year, we're basically 0.2% different. So we're about the same as we were last year. This is good numbers. Just that ramp up, Jeff. What's your interpretation of that? How good that look? That's on track.
But yeah, I don't know if the factory's on track. I don't know if they're supply constrained or if they're at peak capacity, peak production rate yet. They could have all the capacity in the world installed for the new Model Y, but they could be constrained inbound. But this natural progression of what we've seen, I mean, I called this even a month ago. They'll do something like a 13, 15, 17, and then, you know, maybe 19 and change. Remember, next week has an extra day. So it'll be the 23rd to the 30th, and then you add another day. I mean, whatever. We're like trying to get this stuff down to the hour. The point is, you know, as Model Ys are in inventory, they get sold. If there aren't new Model Ys, they don't get sold, and that is the takeaway. That is the highest order bit, and all this. Everything else is everybody kind of like conjecturing and noise, and I think it's this, and I think these people don't like Elon, and I like that's all like fine. You can, you know, you're probably, you know, everybody's probably right. Every there are conservative people that not like Elon. There's other groups that don't like him. But what you can't like f around with are the physics of a supply chain. And I've explained it till I'm kind of like blue in the face. I think it's a very objective, very clear story of where they started the year in inventory, when they did the cutover, how many weeks the cutover took, what that does to supply. It's a very objective story. And the people that don't listen to objectivity, don't report on objectivity, aren't interested in objectivity. They're interested in something else. So let them do whatever the heck they want. But this quarter is going to be messy. They started with low inventory. They changed over their top product, and what's going to happen is you know, you're going to have a huge reduction in the production volume. Huge. It's going to be a big number. I put my estimates out there, and then what you're going to have is now you're going to get the Model Ys, you know, getting to peak production rate, and what they're not going to.
Lost you again, Jeff.
Maximize free cash flow and you minimize inventory. You don't do that with a new product. Nobody does that if you have a hot new product that everybody wants, you just, in the factory, you keep your foot down on the accelerator, and you're bringing components in as quickly as possible. You're running the factory. So on March 3rd, there's no shutdown of the factory. March 30th, 31st, they're going to be cranking like you would not believe. So you're going to have a bunch of, it's going to look weird. You're probably going to see Model Y stranded inventory. You're going to be like, well, what's happening? Is the new Model Y not selling? The answer is no. You're in the middle of a ramp, and they can't naturally slow down the flush inventory the last couple of days. So you're not going to have some delivery wave. They are pushing a lot of the old stuff out, which is good. But yeah, it's going to be a messy quarter. You're just going to have to look past it, and you have to ask. I hope analysts are on the call and they ask the right questions, which are, do you have any disruption in your order rate? Do people like the new Model Y? Is it doing equal or better than the old Model Y? And is there anything else you see in your data regionally that would concern you about demand, or anything like that? And just get the right questions asked and answered. I think that's what's important.
Really, really appreciate you, Jeff, explaining this so well to us over and over again. But let's just get this out of the way. Is there a demand problem because of the brand crisis? The data from China looks like that there isn't. I think most people don't expect that there would have been brand crisis in China, reducing sales there. Both the Model 3, Model Y are doing fine, and you can pretty well track it based on the production shutdown because of the transition. In Europe, these more and more data points are coming out pointing that there might not be as big of a brand crisis as everybody's saying. We had the plant manager for Giga Berlin come out saying that there is no demand crisis, the demand issue, that's all supply issues. The most recent February, AJ reported that it's the February growth over January is 70% growth, which means that we're getting back to production as well. And in February, the best-selling BEV in Europe is still the Model Y, and the Model 3 is number 1 and 2. So that's still looking good. Norway is back on top. Tesla's the best-selling vehicle back there again. So these are signals that maybe there isn't anything happening in Europe. We'll find out. But what do you guys think is the U.S.? I don't know if I've seen any data points yet to point one way or the other.
Well, there's credit card data.
Right.
That Bloomberg reports on, that they don't, by the way, they don't print any headlines on it. They just it appears on people's terminals that pay $2,000 a month for it, but they won't print a headline. And yeah, it's it's a strange time. But yeah, there's a lot of objective data out there that says that you're going to have soft sales when you don't have product and inventory. And then you're going to have stronger sales when you do have product and inventory, and people like your product. So, I think it's like anything, it's going to take a couple quarters to flush out. I think you could, if you're interested in any like point of view, I think you can find a chunk of data that aligns to your point of view.
Yeah.
But if you talk to people that understand how production works and understand how this whole thing works, there are objective sets of data out there that tell you kind of like what's 90% of this equation look like, and then maybe there's something else out there that's going to impact it 5 or 10%. I can't predict the sentiment of every individual out there, and anybody that writes a headline that claims they can are probably, they probably had a conclusion for the article before they started writing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the other data points for the US, other than the credit card data, is showing that, well, just based on credit card data, that it seems like there's no drop off. But the other one is inventory for the new legacy Model Ys is sold out at this point in inventory. So in many states, I think we're past 30 plus states.
I mean, that just shows you all that is, to me, again, that's just typical inventory aging. Tesla has very low aging on their inventory. They have very high turns. They have very low days of inventory. So, and then they put a bunch of this stuff of the old Model Y on promotion. So none of that surprises me. They turned the spigot off for the old Model Y. You call it whatever, end of January, whatever that was. They turned it off some point in January, and they started turning the new one on. So it's not surprising to me.
Oh gosh, we lost you again.
To do it.
There you go.
No, I said it's just a proper way to do it. Is this, I don't know where I got cut off, but what they're doing with the old Model Y is just, it's pretty typical of wanting to flush the channel.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll wait for that. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.